Hi there, Musitrature Recaps here. Today, I'm explaining a movie called Brimstone. Act 1 Revelation. Liz resides in the Wild West with her husband, Eli, and their children, Matthew, Eli's son from a previous marriage, and Sam, their youngest daughter. One evening, Liz and Sam visit the local bathhouse and later head home, exchanging greetings with townspeople along the way. The next morning, Eli decides to teach Matthew how to shoot a rifle against Liz's objections. The boy doesn't listen to her since she is not his own mother. Later, during Sunday service, townspeople gather outside the church. Then a new church minister's voice sends chills down Liz's spine. After the church service, everyone dispersed, with some interacting with the new church representative. Liz observed a man touching Abigail's pregnant belly and decided to avoid him, quickly leaving the church to wait for her family. As they were about to depart, a scream erupted, and Liz called for help. Abigail fell ill, prompting locals to transport her to the church for the midwife's assistance. Liz, glancing under Abigail's dress, saw the baby's hand and realized the birth would be challenging, warning that only one, either mother or baby, might survive due to complications with the baby's head. Liz faced a challenging decision, opting to save Abigail's life while the baby tragically passed away. The midwife, feeling responsible, is deeply saddened. Eli consoles Liz, attributing it to the mysterious ways of the Lord. However, Liz disagrees, convinced that the Reverend, who touched Abigail's stomach the day before, is responsible for the tragedy. She believes the man is cursed, bringing pain and suffering. The following day, Liz and her daughter visited Nathan to support the grieving couple. However, Abigail's husband not only barred Liz from entering but also blamed her for the tragedy. On the way home, Sam greeted the townspeople as usual, but the family had become outcasts, receiving no responses. In the middle of the night, Liz was awakened by a bright light and went to the window. Suddenly, a gunshot rang out, and a bullet narrowly missed her. Nathan, in a drunken state, set fire to Eli's wagon, convinced the midwife was a witch playing God. Young Matthew, aiming to protect the family, returned fire. Despite Eli's attempts to calm the distraught Nathan, who sought justice for his lost son, Nathan demanded Liz be burned at the stake. The Reverend intervened upon arrival, managing to pacify Nathan. He not only sent Nathan home but also pledged to find solutions to his grievances. Despite Liz's reservations, Eli welcomed the Reverend into their home, considering it a gesture of gratitude for saving their lives. In a conversation with the Reverend, Eli decided to fetch his wife. The church representative sensed Liz eavesdropping outside, blaming her for the baby's fate and hinting at his daughter, causing Liz great fear. After the Reverend left, Liz urged Eli to leave town urgently. He agreed but wanted to find a shepherd for their sheep first. The next morning, Matthew found a gruesome scene in the barn, all the livestock brutally slaughtered, revealing Nathan as the culprit. Eli, fueled by grief and anger, decided to confront Nathan. With his son, they headed to Nathan's house to settle the matter. Meanwhile, Liz, blindfolding Sam, asked her to sing while she dealt with the sheep's bodies. The Reverend, seizing the opportunity, locked Liz in the shed and approached Sam, intending to lead her away in an unknown direction. Arriving at Nathan's house, Eli and Matthew confirmed his escape and returned home. Liz, waking up, noticed the open barn and found her husband and son on the doorstep. She explained what happened, but Eli, having seen his daughter safe, didn't believe her. Before bedtime, Sam revealed to her mother that the Reverend considered Liz cursed and wanted to punish her for her actions. During the night, the mute midwife, armed with a knife, went to the church with the intention of ending the Reverend's life. Instead, she found her daughter's doll in his bed. Simultaneously, the church representative, with a knife in hand, entered Liz's house and roamed around the children's bedrooms. Eli, waking up, noticed Liz's absence. Finding a light on in the shed, he unknowingly walked into the Reverend's trap. The Reverend attacked and gutted Eli because Liz loved her husband. Upon arriving home, the wife discovered Eli with his intestines exposed. Shortly after, Matthew also witnessed his father in distress. Eli requested that his family go to the mountains to his grandfather and spare him from suffering. The son, following his father's wish, shot and ended Eli's life. Afterward, they left, and the Reverend set the house ablaze. Act 2 Exodus. Joanna, a young girl, roams the desert and eventually passes out. A Chinese family finds her and brings her to the mining town of Bismuth. Recognizing Joanna's beauty, the man decides to sell her to Frank, the local brothel owner. Confused and attempting to escape, Joanna is taken under the protection of Sally, one of the workers. Recognizing Joanna's youth, Sally suggests she work as a waitress. Some time later, Eastman, flush with cash from card games, asks Frank to arrange an encounter with Joanna. Sally tries to distract Eastman with a free date, but he's dissatisfied. Frank suggests a neutral option, paying for an hour of very good time with Sally. As Joanna observes, learning to please men intimately, Eastman turns violent and strikes Sally. Unable to bear it, Joanna threatens Eastman with his own revolver. Rather than deterring him, the threat arouses him further. After their encounter, Eastman, disregarding the safety, tries to exploit Joanna. In response, Sally ends his life with a shot to the back of the head. The next morning, the sheriff executes a prostitute for the crime. Meanwhile, Frank indulges in a pleasant time with Joanna, preparing her for her next clients. Several years have passed. Joanna has become an experienced night butterfly, forming a friendship with her colleague, Elizabeth. During a date, Elizabeth interrupts and exposes herself to the client, signaling that his time is up. Later, the girls hurry to the balcony to witness a duel between the father of a victim from the brothel and Frank. The sheriff, wanting to protect his friend, breaks the rules of the duel by shooting the grieving father in the back. In the evening, an audacious client attempts to kiss Elizabeth despite her refusals. In response, she bites his tongue, causing discontent. It turns out the client is a significant figure in the gold mines, and Frank is compelled to punish Elizabeth by cutting off the client's tongue. Later, the doctor helps heal the wounds and provides Elizabeth with a sign language book. Joanna assists her in learning gestures, and they plan to escape to another city in search of a beautiful and free life. The next morning, the girls visit the marriage agency, where Elizabeth agrees to marry Eli, a widower for 6 months. Joanna, pretending to be a friend's sister, helps raise money to leave the brothel. On the last night, the entire building is rented by an anonymous rich man. Joanna realizes the client is the Reverend and, wearing a mask, confronts him. Unfortunately, the disguise doesn't fool him. He touches her back and identifies her as his runaway daughter due to 2 moles. He chooses her for intimacy but decides to punish Joanna severely first. Elizabeth, determined to protect her friend, attacks the Reverend with a knife, injuring his face. In retaliation, he takes Elizabeth's life, prompting Joanna to slit his throat and set the place on fire to conceal the events. After meeting with the doctor, Joanna pays generously for the operation. In the end, she chooses to cut off her own tongue to assume the identity of the deceased Liz and go to Eli. Act 3 Genesis. Samuel and Wolf, 2 surviving cowboys from a gold shootout, negotiated a truce despite severe injuries and set out on a single horse to reach the nearest town. Meanwhile, young Joanna lives with her parents and the Reverend. In the evening, the wife denies her husband, unwilling to be intimate, and during the morning service, the Reverend condemns her. Anna is the only one untouched by signs from above, and the Reverend manipulates facts, labeling her a sinner. During the night, Joanna awakens with stomach pain, realizing she is bleeding. Simultaneously, her parents head to the barn where the Reverend administers lashes to his wife. The following morning, Joanna attempts to remove the bloodstains, and her mother congratulates her, acknowledging Joanna's transition into womanhood, capable of bearing a child. 2 weary cowboys arrive at their house. Joanna decides to assist them, hiding the men in the barn. She removes bags of gold from their horse and sends it away to avoid unnecessary questions from her father. Joanna provides first aid, extracting bullets and treating wounds. The Reverend, aware that his daughter has come of age, develops an unsettling interest in her. No longer interested in intimacy with his wife, he focuses on Joanna, subjecting her to a series of tests. As a starting point, she must take the life of a pig, followed by washing her father in the bathroom. After a couple of days, the Reverend observes changes in his daughter. Anna notices this and confronts her husband, resulting in a punch to the face. Later, the priest takes her to the blacksmith to don a mask of shame. Meanwhile, Samuel awaits an opportune moment for Wolf to leave the toilet, planning to take his life. Eventually, the closet door opens, and Joanna calmly witnesses the chilling scene. Shortly after, the girl confronts her mother for her perceived weakness, declaring that she wouldn't endure such humiliation. Realizing Joanna is right, Anna takes her own life. The Reverend, unmoved by the tragedy, deems his wife a sinner destined for hell. In the evening, the church representative punishes himself, and Joanna seeks solace in Samuel's arms. However, he's not ready for intimacy, understanding it's too early for such considerations. Come morning, the Reverend decides to claim his daughter as his wife, enforcing a mask of shame to prevent Joanna from resisting. Samuel attempts to intervene, but the Reverend dispatches him to the afterlife with a slaughter hammer. During the night, the Reverend forcibly takes Joanna, and at dawn, she escapes from her oppressive home. Act 4 Retribution. Matthew escorts Liz and Sam to Grandpa's, wary of the pursuing Reverend. He suggests Liz take a gun and set up an ambush while he continues the journey. Liz, ready to shoot, notices the riderless horse. Soon, Matthew's wagon encounters a fallen animal, causing him to lose his rifle. While he retrieves it, the Reverend shoots Matthew, ending his life. Realizing there's no escape, Liz decides to confront the evil. Armed with a rifle, she positions herself on the veranda, awaiting the Reverend. During the night, he taunts his daughter from a distance, out of her shooting range. The Reverend claims Liz made a mistake by not being vigilant enough. Upon entering the house, the mute woman discovers Eli's father's lifeless body and understands she must flee. The Reverend assaults Liz, tying her up with a threat to harm little Sam. His twisted plan involves forcing Liz to witness him whipping the girl and then making Sam his new wife. Refusing to endure such horror, Liz wrenches her arm free, hurls an old lamp at the priest, but fire doesn't deter him, claiming real hell is life without love. Determined to end it, Liz grabs a gun from the floor and takes a decisive shot. Later, she regains composure, establishing a sawmill at Eli's former home. Nathan, sent by the Reverend, arrives at the dock to work as a sheriff's bailiff in Bismuth. A year ago, Nathan became sheriff and discovered Elizabeth, a woman without a tongue, who had taken the life of a brothel owner. Unaware that Liz is using her deceased friend's name, Nathan arrests her. With a final glance at her daughter, Liz plunges into the lake, unconquered. Hearing gunshots, Sam realizes her mother is no more. Many years have passed. Sam, now a mother herself, fondly recalls her warrior-like mother, and here the movie ends. Thank you for watching.